1C, efficiency. It's the process. This set of slides is devoted to helping you imagine, create, formulate your efficiency initiative. It is also directly tied to management. So mostly I'm going to be talking about your project, but I want you to be thinking that your project is practice in management. And then the final 4 slides of this PowerPoint presentation brings it back to the idea of management. So, what we want in any organizations, remember that's the throughput, is a sustainable, productive effort. What is something that we can keep going for a long time that gets us where we want to go? Um, Remembering from that open systems diagram that inputs have a cost. Often we measure this in money or time as you do your project. You are invited to look at money or time if you have something else you want to measure. For example, the amount of pounds of recycling that you can take once a month to the center, that's fine. Um, but often it's measured in money or time. So the question is, how many units did you use? Therefore, before you begin your project or as you're thinking about your project, I strongly encourage you to look at the step-by-step instructions regarding the efficiency project, and then to not wait, start assessing, start thinking, how much money am I spending on eating out? How many plastic bottles am I throwing away? How long does it take me to get the kids to school in the morning, etc. So how much money, how much time, how much of some resource are you currently using or have you recently used? Maybe you've already begun tracking something along those lines for each unit produced. So, for example, for each mile, how many gallons? Now, usually um, we measure this in miles per gallon. But if our output is that we go for each mile, maybe each week, how many miles, etc. So, for each unit, how much input did it require? Maybe a 30th of a gallon, for example. For each disc, what was the cost of production? For each car, how many person hours? Now, thinking of your efficiency initiative, how are you spending your time, money, or energy? For example, just an example, you don't have to use this one, but it's one that some students have chosen to use in the past. How do you spend your time studying? What are the step-by-steps in your study routine? Maybe you need to have gotten enough sleep. You schedule a certain amount of hours to study. Maybe you need to get a babysitter. Maybe you need to feed your pet so that he'll leave you alone while you're studying. You need to make a snack. Do you set up? Do you log on? Do you check announcements? Read the chapters, reviewing the key terms. What all is involved in your study routine? And then within each of these steps, there's probably steps within the steps. So, for example, in the snack, maybe you needed to have made a list, cut out coupons, gone grocery shopping, stored your food, cut your food, cleaned up your food, etc. Now, this little clip art indicates that lots of resources go into coming up with an output. So we're going to say that our output is learning, and what all has gone into it: time, money, loans, your job, planners, clothes, your fitness, your computers, your textbook, gasoline, cars, housing, babysitters, food, shelter, music, air conditioning, effort, concentration. What all goes into your ability to learn? Efficiency cuts waste from the steps in what you do. Maybe you are leaving out an important step, like bringing your book with you when you go um, out to breakfast with your grandpa once a week. I don't know, because he tends to be late. What is it that you can add in to help you study better? Or maybe some steps need to be changed, or maybe some steps like checking Facebook before you get going, maybe that's not contributing as much as some other steps could. What steps can you change? So here's my little Facebook page. Maybe you're spending money on eating out, or maybe you're spending a lot of time making this delicious frappuccino, and You don't necessarily need it to study. Maybe you're discarding paper that you could recycle. Any unneeded resources in your routines? Do you have extra scrap at your work site? Are you wasting some dollars per meal? Maybe your cups of coffee per day, you don't need as many. Maybe kilowatts, little gauge here. Touches per form. Now, what I mean by this is that one way to assess efficiency in workplaces is how many people handle each piece of paper or how many times you handle a piece of paper. Can you get it down to once? Can you open the mail and then put the item exactly where it needs to go? That will save you time. So by per form, I mean piece of paper, and touches means how many times you or someone else actually touches it. How many grocery store trips per week? How many hours on the internet per day? How many hours do you watch TV a day? Is any of this unneeded to achieve your goal? So here's some synonyms for unnecessary: avoidable, beside the point, dispensable, excess, exorbitant, expendable, extraneous, inessential, irrelevant, lavish, needless, non-compulsory, non-essential, optional, redundant, superfluous, surplus, uncalled for, unessential, unneeded, unrequired, useless, wanton, worthless. I put these things from the thesaurus in here so to maybe help you think about your efficiency project. So, in addition to thinking where we might be using extraneous resources, we need to begin to decide what it is we can measure. Are we going to measure time? Are we going to measure money? Are we going to measure the number of steps, the number of times we touch a piece of paper? Are we going to measure the material that we've used, the gallons that we've used of water or ice cream or gasoline? How are we going to measure it is another important part of the control process, getting feedback about how well we're doing. Remember, that's what control means. Do we use a planner? Do we use a cell phone? Do we use a spreadsheet? Do we look at our receipts, credit card statements, etc.? What I'm asking for this project is your total savings. So I want you to estimate how much you can save per week. How much of that extraneous stuff can you track and eliminate from your routines? So, as a general rule, if you need to go more or less, you let me know. But for consistency, I'm going to call it a 10-week project. So, you're going to figure out how much you think you can save per week, multiply that by 10, and that's your expected savings. Okay? And then you're going to track your actual expenses and savings per week, add that all up, and then compare your actual total to your estimated total. That was your estimated times 10. And then identify one or more reasons if you do have a gap. Why did you not achieve the goal? Or how did you? Okay, these last 4 slides have to do with putting the idea back into a business management perspective. What you want out of your outcome is maybe you want an A, but that's not what you're going to get because remember, it's an inside job. What you're going to get is a better process that is much more likely to get you the outcome that you want. So here, maybe this is a process of checking the books at this restaurant, this coffee shop. Maybe this is one of the manager, and he sits down and checks his books during a slow time instead of waiting till the evening to do it. Or maybe there's a new way of cleaning the dishes, or maybe there's some way of setting the lights or setting the thermostat. What is the process that you are now creating? That is your outcome of your efficiency. Now, effectiveness, we don't get too far from effectiveness. What we want to ask is, does the new process, does your new routine, all your efficient steps actually lead to value? Value for customers, value for shareholders, value for other stakeholders? And how can you tell? Again, the control process says we seek feedback. Maybe we'll send out some kind of a customer comment card. Maybe we'll have critics that can tell us. Maybe we'll count our sales receipts. Maybe we'll look at our stock prices. Maybe we get an award, and that lets us know we're doing great. And then increasingly, we can look to internet sites for information of whether people are, maybe there's a forum that talks about your product, and then you can watch yourself, and then you can also benchmark your competitors. So this last slide is one that begins to give you an idea about the conversation, the art of listening, learning, and sharing, including listening to feedback that others are providing you about your service. Thanks. Talk to you next time.